fact that we are able to kind of assimilate and absorb and bring together this diversity of thoughts and practices and their intersections, I think the only way to capture that is in the word plurality. And I think that's really beautiful and meaningful.
The idea from day one was to build it as a neutral platform where everyone is welcome. We invite some of the most renowned, acknowledged leaders of each art form, but not just because they're leaders. We also invite those who are able to work with others, who are able to work across different disciplines, because we want to make sure this interdisciplinarity goes all the way through the entire festival, starting from the design itself.
I'm Mr. Munjal. I'm Samta Nadeem. I'm the curatorial director of STIR, and extremely pleased to be in conversation with you, especially at the 10th anniversary of Serendipity Arts Festival. So thank you so much for being with us. I actually wanted to start with looking back a little bit, going back to when you started this 10 years ago and all the journey that it's taken and come. I do know that when you set this up, the whole idea was to bring art, community, and everyday life together. While you start with something as wide as an intention, I'm sure there are only a certain level of things that you can plan, but a lot of the outcomes might be unexpected. So over the last 10 years, if I have to ask you about that one most unexpected outcome that you think is really valuable and has stayed with you, what would you say?
So the very idea of getting involved with the arts is to handle and manage the unexpected all the time. But if I were to pick one, I would say it's so interesting that the Serendipity Arts Festival, we started off as our festival with us going to Goa from Delhi, has actually become Goa's festival. The people in Goa have adopted this as theirs. It's no longer an outsider in Goa. Now, people in Goa wait for the festival, although we work there through the year with the schools and with many of the communities. So I think that's one of the unique outcomes, is the adoption of the festival by the communities, by the government, by the local institutions. All of them have embraced this as their own.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think that's also the reason behind its longevity, right? The fact that it's successful today and it's been 10 years is because it's found home in Goa. So that's really special for sure. Has there also been anything which was really challenging for you to do that? Like you said, you took it from Delhi, but made home in Goa. What was like the biggest challenge?
Well, there have been many challenges, as you can imagine, for a festival of the kind that we put together. First, it was almost unheard of to have an event or a set of events which are interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary in all art forms at one time and at the scale that we did. I remember telling some of my friends that when I spoke to many people before we started about what we should do and this is what we are thinking, there were some people who encouraged it, but there were many actually who said, this is not a good idea. You don't do this kind of thing in India. One of them was very encouraging, said, this is a good idea, but you should do 2 projects. So we went ahead and started with 52 projects. So I think doing this at scale was to be able to make a real impact. But that in itself has challenges. To go to a new place, new location, which has not seen this before, which has seen many, many other events, but not anything of this nature and this kind, this quality and this depth of the art. Because one of the unique things about the festival also is that while we bring some of the most celebrated artists in all art forms, we also have completely unheard of emerging young artists starting out who people have never seen. Some of those who have done residencies with us, some of those who have done some research projects with us. So it's a platform which encourages creativity in every aspect, in all its forms. And what is quite unique about it is the idea, which, as you mentioned at the beginning, is of removing the silos between different art forms and letting them converse with each other, allowing the arts to be in their own nature.
So taking on from what you just said about the very scale of not just probably the infrastructures that you put in and the kind of people who attend, but I did read that every year you have at least 10 to 12 curators who come together. But this year especially, because it's the 10th anniversary, there are there is a number which is 35, 35 curators, and hence so many more artists and so many more people who are coming together to make something like this. So that says something about the curatorial intent and the programming and the content of the festival.
Yeah.
But I do know that the one thing that has been very close to your hearts from the beginning was also the viewership. The fact that you wanted arts to be accessible to everyone. You do believe that art is for everyone.
Yeah.
So in that sense, if you can talk about how did you foresee that coming together, and how does the programming and the current structure of the entire festival ensures that people who probably traditionally do not have access, the audience who does not have access to the art spaces, they get to have a voice and a presence here?
So there are many questions in that one
Yes.
question of yours. One is, we welcome audiences, which means we welcome everybody, all kinds of audiences. So to ensure that we're bringing in communities which do not normally get to these places, there is no charge for entry into the festival. So that's one of the barriers we removed, because very often people see wonderful events taking place but cannot go in because it's either too costly for them, or it's too prohibitive, or it's an exclusive set of invites. Whereas here, the effort is being made to ensure that it's open to everybody. We put in ramps for wheelchair access, so people who cannot walk by themselves also able to come in. We go and invite children from schools, kids from orphanages. We invite transgender communities. We invite elders from care homes. We invite visitors who are deaf, mute, or blind. We invite visitors who have learning challenges, and we run special curated programs for them. So everyone feels that they're part of this, and the art is all embracing. The festival itself is all embracing. So everybody has their own unique experience, and that's what makes the festival. And the second part you mentioned about the curators is also important. We don't want to drive the festival itself. The creative part is driven by creative leaders from different walks of different art forms. We invite some of the most renowned, acknowledged leaders of each art form, but not just because they're leaders. We also invite those who are able to work with others, who are able to work across different disciplines, because we want to make sure this interdisciplinarity goes all the way through the entire festival, starting from the design itself. So you're right, we normally have 10 to 12, sometimes even 14 curators. This year, because it's the 10th year, we wanted to do something special. And we invited most of the artists who worked with us right through the 10 years. And these were the number that were able and available to come in and join us in this one. So I think it's going to be a delightful experience. The sheer diversity of what is taking place it will be worth seeing.
I'm very much looking forward to that. So I'm also thinking about, because we're talking about the 10th year, there is this sense of legacy building there. And there's also this future looking, that's happening at this stage. It's in some ways like a momentous time for the festival. I'm sure by now it gives you the chance to see that, there's so many things you try and you do. Some things stick and stay, and some things sort of, kind of fizzle out or don't or evaporate. In that sense, if I have to ask you, that over the last 10 years, in both aspects, the physical and tangible, maybe structures, infrastructures, and things like that, but also maybe things like programs and residencies and fellowships are the kinds of, infrastructures that you create, which are not physical in that sense. Can you throw a little bit more light on both of these within the city?
Sure. So one, about learning from time. We walk into this with a very clear view that we never have all the answers. And that's a starting point, which is why it's very experimental. It opens itself to ideas from all kinds of influences, people, places. We look at the past as much as we look at the future as the festival gets designed, which is also why we brought in, from the very early days, actually from the very first festival, the interaction of arts with science, arts with technology, arts with health, and last year was arts with AI, which is currently the hot topic across the globe. So looking at time through a lens which does not have clear divisions, actually helps us create something unique, because already we are looking across different art forms. So the moment you add the time as another dimension, it gives it a complete new life of itself. As to infrastructure, I think over a period of time, we have been able to create a few unique things. One, that we've gone and done restoration of a number of the heritage buildings in Goa. The government of Goa is our partner as much as the people of Goa are. And the government gives us these beautiful, wonderful old buildings to use. But many of them are not in great condition. So we've gone almost every year and done restoration of one heritage building. And we like to leave these behind. We've also been doing a series of programs on street art. So Panjim has one of the largest collections of street art today in the country because of the number of times Serendipity Arts Festival has taken place there. And we also don't like to do things just for the 8 or 9 or 10 days that the festival is on. So the work actually goes on through the year. And you mentioned residencies, that's one of the things we do. We also give grants, we run competition, we run showings. There are a series of activities which take place through the year which lead up to this. We do research programs, we do publication of the research. So it's no longer 7 or 8 days of a festival. It is a full year of an ecosystem actually that has got created around Serendipity Arts. And that operates not just in Goa, it also works through our many partnerships across the globe, many parts of the country, because our curators, our artists come literally from all kinds of geographies, and also through institutional partnerships that we have built over a number of years. We work with many of the cultural departments of the nations like the UK, France, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Korea, Japan, and I'm missing a few. And also with some of the individual, private and government institutions. CANAP, for example, is a partner of ours. That is the art collection of the French government. So they have brought artworks here to show at the festival, and we are working with them in potentially a longer term relationship as well, as we are with the British Council, as we are with IFI in France, as also with the cultural department at Italy. So this has become much more than just physical infrastructure. It has become, the only word I can use, it's an ecosystem that has got created and now has a life of its own, which keeps evolving all the time, not just festival to festival, but literally day to day and month to month.
There's actually one more word I read in what you were just saying, because the names that you took of all these international collaborations, they in some way wrap the globe, right? So from South Korea to, of course, the West and all across Asia. And I think I can relate to that in some ways because, you know, even at STIR, this is what we do. We emanate from this part of the world.
Yeah.
But we were asking ourselves this question that when we were going international and becoming a global platform, what does it even mean to be international for people like us? And I think our answer to that was plurality. And in things that you just said, I do read that especially. I mean, the fact that we are able to kind of assimilate and absorb and bring together this diversity of thoughts and practices and their intersections, I think the only way to capture that is in the word plurality. And I think that's really beautiful and meaningful. With that, I do want to ask you that when this festival, because it is not just an Indian festival, it's not just a Goa festival, it is a global festival. It has a place, you know, on the map like that. And like you mentioned, a lot of, you know, your visitors also come from all parts of the world to attend the festival. What does it mean? Like, what was your vision when you were starting this? Were you thinking of this as an Indian festival, which would go global one day? And what would that mean? Or did you always know that your like longer term vision was to bring the globe to this part of the world?
So the idea from day one was to build it as a neutral platform where everyone is welcome. So while we are talking of the globe, we do as much work in India, in all parts of India. We have artists of project literally from Ladakh and in Chennai or in Tezpur or taking place across the geography of our nation and with the peoples and the neighborhood. Actually, we've been running an interesting program called the Young Subcontinent. So we invite artists from the entire neighborhood, from Afghanistan to Myanmar, to pitch their artworks. And we, of course, pick only a few. The interesting thing on this one was that when we started, our curators thought we might get 2, 3, or 400 artworks. And in the very second or third day, they had some, I don't remember the number now, 20, 30, or 40,000. And our system crashed because it was not designed to accept so much data. But that was only a temporary problem. The delightful thing was the amount of dynamism, the interest, the artistic intent which exists in our own neighborhood. And we thought that would be a wonderful way to keep the connections alive with all our neighbors. So we've been running this for many years now. And we are also encouraging patrons in each of these countries to support these artists, because we do this only once a year and for a few days, for them to get ongoing support, and not just for the few that we shortlist, but for the larger group which actually applies. So we've done this in Bhutan, we've done it in Nepal, we've done it in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh. So it's like an all-embracing initiative. So when we started, of course, we had not imagined it would become so big so quickly. But our ambition always was to scale it to a global festival, to build global reach, to allow the global community to come and see what is going on here, because we are one of the richest cultures in the world. Our cultural heritage is unlike any, it gets some exposure, but I do believe it does not get enough exposure. Also, the contemporary India is different from the historical India. And that's also important to demonstrate a dialogue between our past and present and what's going on in the world today. And that's one of the unique things about the festival, is how open it is to attract different communities, different peoples, different art forms, different cultures, and allow them to build this as their own space. And that uncertainty is one of the most exciting parts of this. The result is almost never known before we start.
Which is really special. I think that makes most such initiatives really motivating as well, the fact that you can't predict everything.
Yeah.
And there is value at the end of it, which was probably unexpected. And I also believe that what you just said about the subcontinent, I mean, today when we talk about the subcontinent or South Asia, so to say, so to have initiatives that really kind of redefine and reinterpret them in newer ways through newer relationships is probably the call of the hour. So thank you so much, for doing that.
Thank you. Well, the world right now is a challenged place. The global relations are strained like never before. Conversation and dialogue in geopolitics has become highly adversarial. So I think the arts have an important role to play right now, because this is one channel, one medium where it's a win-win on both ends. It doesn't matter who's involved, what art form you're involved with, because every other negotiation nowadays appears to be strained because there is a win-lose. And it I think, enhances the importance and reiterates the importance of why this is important now. Its time and place is here and now. And it can, and it needs to, and it must play a role in not just supplying a balm to the world, but creating a more positive, forward-looking outcome through the relationships and the friendships that you build with this channel.
So you just mentioned something about patrons and the circle of patrons in a way that you're kind of, building together in different parts outside of the country, which again, is a sharing of intention, sharing of motivation, and kind of putting these support infrastructures in place. So if I have to ask you from your perspective, of course, patronage started from the royal times and courts and then the state commissions. But when it comes to patronage today in 2025, what's your vision and your view of that? How do you define patronage?
So I would put this in two different aspects. One, the culture of giving is not new in India. It's historic. But our giving of late has been minuscule compared to what I believe the need is. So people have often given to the local school, the charitable hospital, the temple or whatever their faith is, the church, temple, gurdwara, and not much else. So education and healthcare appear to be the two big areas of which receive patronage. Many countries, especially North America, have built this wonderful culture of large organized giving. In India, large organized giving is of recent origin. It's only started in the last 15 or 20 years. And I'm delighted to see how it's evolving. That more and more people, and by the way, we are not the only ones. I'm not the only one. There are many around us who are doing this and approaching giving in a much more organized fashion, so that the impact is truly much higher than it otherwise would be. So one of the things we have always attempted to do is to run our non-profits, our foundations in the same manner that we run our companies. So they have high quality governance, they have good processes, they have very good people working in there. All of them have ERPs at the back end, which in India is normally unheard of, to organize these to run in this manner. But again, like in our companies, they also have defined targets. The targets may move, but they are defined beforehand. So the teams know what they're aiming for, what they're trying to do. And we also look at impact. We had some independent impact studies done on the festival in Goa itself. And it's quite telling that it's been transformative for Goa's economy, for Goa's culture, partly for Goa's ecology, and partly for parents taking decisions to sending children to the art subject. There are a very large number of parents who now believe this is a viable profession and this is a good lifestyle for the children to adopt. So I think in some sense, the very idea of patronage is to do this in a manner that you are able to get the outcomes you're looking for. I don't think it's only about getting your name on top of a building or anything of that nature, but I think it's more about creating institutions which will outlast all of us, so that they can continue to create institutional, long-term, and serious impact, serious positive impact, because that is required by our society as diverse as ours and as large as ours.
And there's something very interesting, again, a nuance I'm picking from what you just said. So in patronage, of course, there has to be this sweet spot between directive and generative, right? How do you sort of strike that balance?
I think one thing is clear, that you need to know what you're trying to do. But if you walk in with ready answers, it becomes hard because there's a lot of uncertainty, especially when you get to the challenged areas. And especially the way we have approached this, we as a family, we work across. My daughter works with me. Shefali is part of the foundation. My wife, Mukta, used to be very engaged and involved in many multiple initiatives. And so is our larger family. And it's not just us. I see this around many of our friends. The couple of things that I've seen is that you have to walk into this with a very open mind. Because when you walk in, if you go in with a ready answer, very often you find the rules of the game themselves have changed by the time you're midway. So if you're not able to adapt, if you're not flexible, you find it very, very hard. You also have to be open to learning, because there is just so much to learn from all of these situations. I find for me, learning comes back into the way one takes decisions in business as well. So this is a place which teaches you that uncertainty is not something to be scared of, but it's something to embrace, because it adds a completely new dimension to how you do things. So going back to your question of patronage, I think patronage itself has to keep learning and keep evolving as the environment and situation around us changes. And now with the advent of technology, the tools available have also changed.
Could you expand a little bit on that as well when it comes to technology and patronage? What do you mean by that?
So you're able to do things which you could never otherwise do, because technology allows you both speed and reach, which you do not otherwise have. So you can expand physical reach. Digital tools are available which allow you to gather much more data, much more information, to be able to slice it, dice it, and see what's working and what's not. So you can do continuous mid-course correction as you go along. So it allows you to be much, much more effective than you otherwise could be.
Picking up something again from what you just mentioned in your previous response,
Yeah.
I also did read somewhere you said that business leaders who engage with the arts make better decisions, right? So, and you do have, I mean, your foundational background is being a business leader at a very large scale. And the work that you're doing now through your, foundations and festivals, I also read that as an effort in building cultural capital at a broad scale. That's when we all sort of head towards some kind of equality. So if I have to ask you, how do you think your such intrinsic, sort of engagement with the arts has shaped you as a business leader? How would you define that?
So my belief is that if you look at successful leaders right through history, and of course today, you will find those who are continuously successful are normally those who have left brain, right brain functioning. So too often we focus on one side. The world has focused on STEM subjects, and technology is the big driver of education and achievement for the last 5 or 6 decades. And I think what happened in the bargain was we missed out on the softer aspects of life, of culture, of nations, of peoples, and the arts got kind of sidelined. So the moment you add the two together, I think you get the best, most potent combination. And which is why I believe business can benefit very significantly from the arts, and arts has a lot to learn from how business gets organized.
And any specific things that you may say that maybe, which you remember where there was an impact on your own thinking because of the art, which helped your business decisions? Is there an anecdote or something that you have that you'd like to share?
So one of the activities we have is promoting and supporting early stage companies, which focus on innovation, ideas, technologies to serve unique needs of humanity. Because one of the criteria that we look for when we look at any possible investment in early stage companies, that they must have an outsized societal benefit. And I would imagine if we were only a tech company or only a pure business company, we probably would not be making the kind of choices that we have made. And we've actually found significant success in many of the choices that we did make. So I would think this creates a much more wholesome ability to take decisions, also allows you to handle uncertainty much better. And uncertainty is sadly a reality of life. You cannot help it, you cannot avoid it, you cannot walk away from it. Business looks for structures all the time, which sadly are not always available. And that's where the exposure to the arts, I think, comes in handy.
And also because we're talking business, and end of the day, economy is a big part of all our sort of everyday lives in the current world order. Through such initiatives like the ones that you're doing, but also so many others that are happening in the region, what is the kind of impact you think these initiatives have on the creative economy of the country?
That's a very good question, because large part of the arts have struggled. Parts of our arts, like our crafts and our artisanal skills, have got left too far behind. You do find musicians, theater personalities, visual artists, some of them get very high recognition. Movie persona, they get recognition across the globe. So they get name, fame, also financial success. But many of them don't. So one of the things that we try and expose all of those who come to us as residents or trainees or just for exposure, because we do a lot of this work through the year. As I mentioned, it's not just the Serendipity Arts Festival for the 8 days in Goa. So one of the things we do is we expose the artists to their own art form, to different art forms, and to business. Well, of course, we do a lot more than that, but I'm just oversimplifying. To help them become better entrepreneurs by themselves, to take care of their own affairs in a manner that they can become better businesses so that they can live comfortable lives based on the arts and that discipline as their primary source of income. And I think that's important if they are to grow in life and pursue these as full-time professions. These have to be viable professions that pay well and highly remunerative prices. And for that, business learning is an essential requirement.
For concluding remarks, 1 week before Serendipity's 10th anniversary, you're stepping into your next decade. If you can share with us, you did say earlier that you always want to build things that outlive us. Those are the kind of initiatives that matter. What's your vision for the next 10 years?
So the first 10 years has been very interesting and a great learning experience for us. As I said earlier, we saw the transformation of Goa and the people of Goa and how they've embraced the festival as their own, how their approach to the arts, because we don't do festival only in closed rooms. We do it on public spaces, on the river, in public parks, on pavements, and we also go to people's homes. So we are finding that this is very, very welcome now by many individuals, by many families. And this continues not just when we are there, it continues well after we leave Goa and come back to Delhi. So that has been one transformation that has taken place. So for us, that was a big step forward. Now we are looking at taking the festival beyond just one place. This year, we decided that since it's our 10th year, we would go to 10 cities. So we took the festival to Birmingham, to Varanasi, to Delhi, to Chennai, to Ahmedabad, to Dubai last week. We're going to Paris next week. So we wanted to expose ourselves to see how we can take the festival and how we can operate with completely different environments and different geographies. And the one in Birmingham was in fact a mini festival. It was a full 3-day festival like we do in Goa. While it was a mini festival for us, but the kind of response it got was very encouraging to see how people embrace the different art forms coming together at one time at one place. So this has encouraged us to create versions of the festival which can now travel. So we can converse with the different geographies, the different cultures, the different backgrounds in their home territory as well. So it will travel, it will go to other places. And at the same time, we are building a permanent establishment in Delhi called The Bridge, which will be able to do all of these things and much more 365 days of the year. So maybe a little bit later we shall discuss that, but it's a little bit early for that right now.
Right, yeah, amazing. Mr. Munjal, thank you so much. I'm really, really pleased that we had this conversation. There's a lot for us, I think, also as a younger organization who's doing so many things which are on similar ethos to kind of, learn from and have more conversations. Amazing,
Sure.
yes. Thank you so much.